I stared at the photo and felt my stomach drop. It was from last summer's family reunion. There I was, smiling next to my sister, but all I could see was my midsection. When did that happen? How did I miss it? My sister, 3 years older than me, looked incredible. Same genes, same upbringing, but somehow she'd figured out something I hadn't. I pulled her aside at Thanksgiving and asked her secret. She laughed and said, "I just walk differently now." I thought she was joking. I walked too, every day, rain or shine. My phone proved it with 10,000 steps most days. But there I was with this belly that made me look perpetually bloated while she was slipping into slim jeans. What she explained next changed everything for me. It wasn't about walking more or walking faster. It was about understanding what our menopausal bodies actually need from movement. The old rules of exercise don't apply to us anymore. Walking the way we did in our 30s and 40s can actually trigger our bodies to store more fat, especially around the middle. Our hormones are listening to every signal we send, and most of us are accidentally sending the wrong ones. These 5 simple adjustments sound almost too basic, but they work with your changing body instead of against it. You've been doing everything right by the old standards. It's time for an approach that matches where your body is now. Keep watching. This might be the missing piece.
I tested everything they told me would work for menopause belly fat. The pills, the diets, the exercise programs. I spent 18 years in the pharmaceutical industry, so I had access to the latest research, the newest medications, the so-called breakthroughs. None of it worked. Then I discovered that the walking advice I had been following was actually working against my hormones. Not because walking is bad, but because the way most of us walk after menopause triggers the exact hormonal response that keeps belly fat locked in place. Today, I'm sharing 5 walking hacks that changed everything for me. These aren't complicated protocols. They don't require medication or supplements. They're simple modifications that work with your body's natural systems instead of against them. I call them easy mode because that's exactly what they are. If you've been struggling with that stubborn belly fat that appeared during menopause and refuses to leave no matter what you do, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your current approach isn't working and what to do instead. Let me tell you my story, because I think it matters. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 18 years. I was part of the machine that sold medication as the answer to everything. When I hit menopause at 52, I thought I had all the answers. I had access to hormone replacement therapy, to the newest weight loss medications, to everything the industry had to offer. I tried it all, and I gained 25 pounds anyway, specifically around my middle. That hard, stubborn belly fat that makes you look pregnant when you're definitely not. Worse than the weight gain were the side effects. The medications I took affected my liver. My doctor told me this was normal, that we just needed to monitor it. But here I was, taking drugs that were damaging my organs, and I still couldn't lose the weight. That's when something broke inside me. I realized that I had spent almost 2 decades selling pills that didn't actually solve problems. They managed symptoms while creating new ones, and I had become my own customer. I left the industry. My family thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was, but I knew there had to be another way. I started researching traditional medicine, ethnobotany, ancestral health practices. I traveled to Peru and met with curanderas who had been using plant-based remedies for generations. What I discovered there, and in my subsequent research, completely changed my understanding of health and weight loss. One of the most surprising discoveries was about exercise, specifically walking. What the pharmaceutical industry never tells you is that the wrong kind of exercise can actually work against your hormones. And after menopause, your hormonal landscape has changed so dramatically that the rules are completely different. Let me explain the science, because once you understand this, everything else makes sense. When you enter menopause, 3 major hormonal shifts occur that directly affect how you burn fat during exercise. First, estrogen drops significantly. Estrogen wasn't just about reproduction. It was also helping regulate your metabolism, your insulin sensitivity, and your body's ability to burn fat for fuel. When it drops, all of those systems become less efficient. Second, your body becomes more sensitive to cortisol, the stress hormone. This is the critical piece that most exercise advice ignores. Activities that mildly stress younger women can significantly spike cortisol in postmenopausal women. And elevated cortisol sends one very specific message to your body: store fat around the belly to protect vital organs. Third, insulin sensitivity decreases. Your cells don't respond to insulin as well as they used to. This keeps you in storage mode longer and makes it harder to access your fat stores for fuel. Here's where the walking problem comes in. Research from the University of Colorado found that postmenopausal women burn up to 30% fewer calories from the same walk compared to premenopausal women. Same distance, same effort, dramatically different results. But it gets worse. Extended moderate-intensity cardio, which is exactly what most walking routines are, can raise cortisol levels. In younger women, this isn't a big deal. In postmenopausal women, that elevated cortisol triggers belly fat storage. So the very exercise you're doing to lose the fat might be telling your body to keep it. This isn't theory. This is measurable biochemistry. And it explains why so many women feel like they're doing everything right and getting nowhere. The pharmaceutical answer would be to give you another pill, a cortisol blocker maybe, or an insulin sensitizer. That's how the industry thinks. Identify a problem, create a drug. But there's another way. Researchers have found that specific modifications to how you walk can increase fat oxidation by over 40% and actually lower cortisol instead of raising it. The key isn't walking more or taking medication. It's walking smarter. Let me share these 5 hacks that completely changed my results. Hack number 1, the fasted morning walk. This might be the most powerful hack, and it's completely free. Walking before breakfast in a fasted state optimizes your body for fat burning in a way that walking after eating never can. Here's the biochemistry. When you wake up after sleeping, your insulin levels are at their lowest point of the day. Insulin is the hormone that tells your body to store energy. When insulin is high, you're in storage mode. Your body is busy processing and storing the food you ate. It's not interested in burning stored fat. When insulin is low, everything changes. Your body can finally access those fat stores and use them for fuel. The morning fasted window is when insulin is naturally lowest. A study in the British Journal of Nutrition found that exercising before breakfast burned 20% more fat than exercising after eating. For women with insulin resistance, which includes most of us after menopause, the difference is even more dramatic. Some research suggests it could be 30% or higher. The hack is simple. Walk within 30 to 60 minutes of waking before you eat anything. Water is fine. Black coffee or plain tea is fine. But no food, no cream, no calories. The walk doesn't need to be long. Even 15 to 20 minutes in this fasted window can be more effective than 45 minutes after breakfast. When I first tried this, I was skeptical. My pharmaceutical background had me believing you needed energy, meaning food, before exercise. But within a week, I noticed a difference. I had more energy during the walk, not less. My mind was clearer. And for the first time since menopause started, my belly started to respond. This is what the drug companies don't want you to know. You don't need a pill to improve insulin sensitivity during exercise. You just need to exercise when insulin is naturally low. One important note: if you have diabetes or take medications that affect blood sugar, talk to your doctor before trying fasted exercise. But for most postmenopausal women, this is safe and incredibly effective. Hack number 2, temperature contrast walking. This one might sound unusual, but it's based on fascinating research about brown fat activation. Your body has 2 types of fat. White fat is the storage fat that we're trying to get rid of. Brown fat is metabolically active tissue that actually burns calories to generate heat. When brown fat is activated, it pulls energy from your white fat stores and burns it. After menopause, brown fat becomes less active. This is part of why your metabolism seems to have slowed down. Your internal furnace is running on low. Researchers at Maastricht University discovered that mild cold exposure activates brown fat. When you combine cold exposure with exercise, you significantly increase calorie burn and fat oxidation. The hack works like this. Start your walk wearing slightly more than you need. A light jacket or extra layer. Walk for about 10 minutes until you warm up naturally from the movement. Then remove the layer so you feel slightly cool. Not cold to the point of shivering, just cool enough to notice. Walk for another 10 to 15 minutes, then put the layer back on for the final portion. This temperature variation triggers brown fat activation. The research showed it can increase calorie burn by up to 15% compared to walking at a constant, comfortable temperature. I do this every morning now. I start with a jacket, tie it around my waist when I'm warmed up, then put it back on near the end. It's become automatic. There's an interesting bonus. Many women report that this temperature training helps reduce hot flash severity over time. Your body becomes better at adapting to temperature changes instead of overreacting to them. When I was in Peru, the curanderas talked about the importance of not being too comfortable. They believed that mild stress, like temperature variation, kept the body adaptable and strong. Modern science is now confirming what ancestral wisdom knew. Hack number 3, the post-meal walk. This is one of the most effective things you can do for belly fat, and it takes just 10 to 15 minutes. You've probably heard you should wait after eating to exercise. For intense exercise, that's true. But for gentle walking, the opposite applies. Walking immediately after your largest meal dramatically improves blood sugar control and prevents the fat storage that comes from blood sugar spikes. Here's why this matters so much. When you eat, blood sugar rises. Your body releases insulin to bring it back down. In women with insulin resistance, this process is inefficient. Blood sugar stays elevated longer, and more of that glucose gets converted to fat, specifically belly fat. Walking right after eating changes this equation. Your contracting muscles pull glucose directly out of your bloodstream to use for energy. This reduces the spike without requiring as much insulin. Less spike, less storage. A study from the University of Otago found that a 10-minute walk after meals reduced blood sugar spikes by up to 22%. The American Diabetes Association has updated their guidelines to specifically recommend post-meal walking because the evidence is so strong. The hack is this. After your largest meal of the day, usually dinner, take a gentle 10 to 15-minute walk. It doesn't need to be fast. A leisurely stroll is enough. You're not trying to burn calories with this walk. You're supporting your metabolic response to food. I call this my digestion walk. Right after dinner, before I sit down, I walk around my neighborhood for 15 minutes. It's become one of my favorite parts of the day. I notice better digestion, better sleep, and it's made a visible difference in my waistline. On days when I can't get outside, I just walk around my house or march in place. The movement itself is what matters. This is medicine that doesn't require a prescription. It doesn't have side effects. It doesn't cost anything. And it works. Hack number 4, nasal breathing. This is the simplest hack, and it might be the most underestimated. When you breathe through your mouth during exercise, you tend to take rapid, shallow breaths. This activates your sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight response. Your body interprets it as stress. Cortisol rises, and as we discussed, cortisol after menopause means belly fat storage. Nasal breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system instead. The rest and digest state. It signals safety to your body. Cortisol stays low. There's another benefit. Nasal breathing produces nitric oxide in your nasal passages. Nitric oxide improves oxygen delivery to your muscles and tissues. Better oxygen delivery means more efficient fat oxidation. A study in the International Journal of Kinesiology found that nasal breathing during moderate exercise increased the proportion of fat used as fuel compared to mouth breathing. The hack is straightforward. During your entire walk, breathe only through your nose. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. If you need to open your mouth to breathe, you're walking too fast. Slow down. This was hard for me at first. I was conditioned to think that harder breathing meant better exercise, heavy panting, working up a sweat, feeling like I was really pushing. That's what I thought results looked like, but that approach was spiking my cortisol every single walk. When I slowed down enough to breathe through my nose the entire time, everything changed. My walks became calmer, my stress levels dropped, and my results improved. The pharmaceutical industry would never tell you this. There's no money in telling someone to breathe differently. But it works. Hack number 5. Zone 2. Heart rate. This is where we get specific about intensity, because intensity matters more than most people realize. Exercise physiologists divide effort into heart rate zones. Zone 1 is very light. Zone 2 is moderate, where you can talk but not sing. Zone 3 and above is harder cardio. For specifically burning belly fat, Zone 2 is optimal. In Zone 2, your body primarily burns fat for fuel. This is called the aerobic fat-burning zone. When you push into higher zones, your body switches to burning primarily carbohydrates because they provide quicker energy. For cardiovascular fitness, higher zones have benefits. But for burning stored fat, Zone 2 is where you want to be. The American College of Sports Medicine research confirms that moderate intensity exercise in Zone 2 results in proportionally more fat being burned than higher intensity exercise. To find your Zone 2, subtract your age from 180. That's your approximate Zone 2 heart rate ceiling. For a 56-year-old woman like me, that's about 124 beats per minute. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, use the talk test. If you can carry on a conversation but couldn't sing a song, you're probably in Zone 2. If you're gasping between words, slow down. When I started monitoring my heart rate, I discovered I had been walking way too fast. My heart rate was regularly in the 140s. I was in Zone 3, burning carbohydrates and raising cortisol. I thought I was being efficient. I was actually undermining my results. Now I walk slower and burn more fat. It's counterintuitive, but the science supports it. I want to be honest with you about something. For some women, especially those with significant hormonal imbalances or severe insulin resistance, these walking hacks alone may take months to show results. The metabolic changes from menopause can be stubborn. The thermogenic resistance your body develops is real. That's why many women in our community have been using a concentrated compound that targets that resistance directly. It contains natural ingredients like berberine, which is found in certain seeds and has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years. It also includes Seville orange peel and Himalayan ginger, which support thermogenesis. What makes it different from pharmaceutical options is that it works with your body's natural systems. No harsh stimulants, no liver damage, no side effects. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment if you want to learn more. But whether you try it or not, these 5 walking hacks will help. Let me share some real examples. A woman in our community, Teresa, she's 58, had been walking 4 miles every day for 2 years. Her doctor kept telling her to exercise more. She was exhausted and frustrated, and her belly fat hadn't budged. She switched to these hacks: shorter fasted morning walks, temperature variation with her jacket, post-dinner walks of 10 minutes, nasal breathing throughout, heart rate in Zone 2. She was walking less total distance, but she was walking strategically. Within 3 months, she had lost 2 inches from her waist. Her doctor was surprised. I wasn't. Another woman, Maria, 54, had developed insulin resistance. Her fasting glucose was elevated, and her doctor wanted to put her on metformin. She asked for 90 days to try something natural first. She implemented the fasted morning walks and the post-meal walks. She focused on nasal breathing to keep her cortisol down. After 90 days, her fasting glucose had dropped significantly. Her doctor was impressed, and her belly fat, which she thought was permanent, had started to shift. These aren't dramatic overnight transformations. They're sustainable changes that work with your body instead of demanding more from it. Let me address some common mistakes. The first mistake is thinking more is always better. It's not. A strategic 20-minute walk beats an hour of the wrong kind of walking. Quality over quantity. The second mistake is walking with stress. If you're rushing through your walk thinking about everything you need to do, your cortisol spikes. Find ways to make your walks enjoyable. Listen to something you love. Walk somewhere beautiful. Let it be your time. The third mistake is inconsistency. 3 strategic walks per week, every week, beats 7 intense walks followed by 2 weeks off. Your hormones respond to consistent signals. The fourth mistake is expecting immediate results. This didn't happen overnight, and it won't resolve overnight. Give these hacks 8 to 12 weeks. For those who need extra support, I want to mention again the natural compound I talked about earlier. The formula with berberine and Himalayan ginger has helped many women break through the resistance that makes conventional approaches so frustrating. It's designed to work with your postmenopausal biology. It's not for everyone, but if you've been doing everything right and still struggling, it's worth exploring. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment. Let me summarize what we covered. Hack 1. Fasted morning walks. Walk before breakfast when insulin is naturally low to maximize fat burning. Hack 2. Temperature contrast walks. Vary your layers to activate brown fat and increase calorie burn. Hack 3. Post-meal walks. Walk 10 to 15 minutes after your biggest meal to prevent blood sugar spikes and fat storage. Hack 4. Nasal breathing. Keep your mouth closed to lower cortisol and improve fat oxidation. Hack 5. Zone 2 heart rate. Keep your heart rate at 180 minus your age to stay in the optimal fat burning zone. None of these require medication. None of them have side effects. None of them cost anything except a few minutes of your time. Here's what I want you to remember. Your body isn't broken. It's operating under new rules that nobody explained to you. The approach that worked at 35 doesn't work at 55 because your hormones changed. That's not failure. That's biology. After 18 years in the pharmaceutical industry, I thought the answer to every problem was a pill. I was wrong. Sometimes the answer is simpler. Sometimes it's walking differently, breathing differently, timing things differently. Your ancestors didn't have medications for menopause. They had movement, they had nature, they had wisdom passed down through generations. We forgot that wisdom, and we replaced it with pills that often create more problems than they solve. You deserve better than that. You deserve solutions that work with your body, not against it. Try one of these hacks tomorrow. Just one, see how it feels. Then add another next week. If this video helped you, leave a comment and tell me which hack you're going to try first. I read every comment. In my next video, I'll be sharing specific seeds that support metabolic function and how they work alongside these walking strategies. Because what you eat and how you move work together. Until then, trust your body. It knows how to heal when you give it the right signals. I'll see you in the next one.